to an American landmark, the World Trade Center.
From that moment on, the world watched and waited, not knowing if the crash was an accident or a deliberate attack.
Minutes after the first plane crashed, there you see it, another crashed into the second World Trade Center tower as America watched live. 40 minutes later, another plane crash, another American landmark, the Pentagon in Washington.
As the nation wondered if the tragedy could get any worse, one of the World Trade Center towers collapsed. 30 minutes later, the other collapsed.
Then around 10 this morning, another commercial aircraft crashed, this one in western Pennsylvania. And stories of these attacks have captivated everyone across the nation, of course, here at home. All throughout the day, many stopped what they were doing to learn more about the unthinkable tragedies.
WPDE News Channel 15's Crystal Candy has been out talking with people about today's events. Crystal?
Well, Allyson and Keith, it has been quite a day. Many of us have just been glued to our television sets watching today's events unfold. As I saw people out in the community today, it was almost as if we didn't even need to speak to convey the feeling of concern that we had weighing on our hearts. And as I sat down and watched today's events with people in the community, I couldn't help but share their feeling of disbelief and hopelessness.
I think that surely there were fatalities, but no one could confirm any. I have spoken to a number of people that I know who pulled people out of rubble. There were severe injuries. A number of helicopters here evacuating.
America under attack. Events so horrible you're afraid to look, but you can't take your eyes away.
I'm shocked. I mean, there's nothing else to explain it. I'm just shocked. I was trying to call and reach my family, and it's hard to get through.
At Books A Million in Florence, many came to see the latest news for themselves, but the pictures of suffering are worse than they could have imagined.
And there's no words to express it. It's just ridiculous.
Shock, disbelief, and tears. A sense of dread, afraid the attacks will not end. A sense of helplessness, wanting to lend a hand but stuck thousands of miles away. A sense of community, a tragedy making you feel a connection to your neighbors.
My grandmother told me to just pray, because that's all you can do is just pray. That's all. And just pray and believe that everything's going to be okay.
And certainly we are just beginning to learn more and more about what happened. Many people we spoke with today say they still have faith that the country will pull together in this time of tragedy, faith that America will rebuild. I'm Crystal Candy, reporting live in the newsroom.
All right, Crystal, thank you very much. We're joined now by Sports Director Rich Chrampanis, and not a night for sports, but a different night for Rich. Rich Chrampanis, myself, are from the New York metropolitan area, and Rich from New Jersey, myself from Long Island, and of course we have family members in the area, so it's kind of been a up and down day for us. And your brother actually works on the American Stock Exchange and was in the city today when it happened.
And we've seen so many maps of the area, and the World Trade Center and the World Financial Center are right next to each other. So my brother was very close on top of the scene, and I just spoke to him a couple of moments ago, and the relief that he's home safe and sound right now. So many people in the area across the nation don't have that feeling, and our family feels very fortunate right now. My father was due to land in Newark Airport at 10 a.m. and was rerouted an emergency landing in Richmond. He's on his way home, so we're just a very grateful family tonight.
And I think we have your brother on the phone, Chris Chrampanis. Chris, you with us?
Yes, I am.
I can't imagine, of course, your brother's here. I'm sure you want to say something to your brother tonight.
Chris, it's great to hear your voice, first of all, and if you could just maybe start us out with the beginning of your day and what you saw and how close you were to the World Trade Center at the time of this tragedy.
Well, we walk out of the Trade Center at 20 to 9 to head to the American Stock Exchange, to the trading floor. So we were outside in the street when the first plane hit. After it hit, it was kind of like confetti in the air, just papers and flaming debris flying everywhere. We're probably 50 yards from the actual building. And shortly thereafter, as everyone looked up there in amazement, we saw the second plane coming in, and we saw the second plane strike the building. And from the impact, the flames of the plane, I mean, I felt the heat on my face, and then everyone just started running and screaming, and we hid inside the building for quite some time.
Chris, was it just a sense of complete disbelief?
It was like being in a movie. that's how close we were. And I mean, just the explosion and the mayhem and the people running everywhere. It was nothing like I've ever seen before. And actually, when the first building had collapsed, that's when it really got bad, because our building shook so bad that the ceiling started to cave in. So then everyone really freaked out, and people were running on top of each other. But it was nothing like you could ever imagine seeing.
What went through your mind, Chris, as this was going on? I mean, did you obviously you thought about your family. I know you're just married recently. I can't even imagine what you might have been feeling.
Really, all I wanted to do was get out of there. I mean, that was the only thing in my head. And when after the first building had fallen, they locked our building at the American Stock Exchange so no one could leave, and that made it even worse. But once they finally did open the doors, we ran 6 blocks as fast as we could, and the material and the dust from the building was so thick that we couldn't see 3 inches in front of us. So myself and 5 other people I work with kind of just grabbed hands and just kept running until we got 5 or 6 blocks away from the site, and we actually snuck into Bank of America and stayed there. As soon as we walked in, it was maybe 5 minutes later, the second building fell.
Chris, it's great to hear your voice, and thank God you're okay, and say hi to everybody back home for me.
Thanks, Rich.
Chris Chrampanis on the phone tonight from home in New Jersey, home safe and sound.
We're very happy and fortunate family tonight, but we certainly think of the other families that aren't as fortunate as we are this evening.
All right.
Rich,
Thanks, Rich.
for being with us. We're glad everything turned out well.
Well, of course, a lot of what we have been feeling today, of course, the children across the country have been feeling today as well, and explaining it to them is not easy.
Yeah, it's good.
And we've also had
That's
a
good.
lot
Thanks,
of course, schools in our area, social studies classes, who watched the events as they unfolded today.
Yeah, really a day of history. It's been already compared to Pearl Harbor, many people comparing today's terrorist attacks to that. Keri Schwartz was in a classroom today with some of the students as this unfolded. And Keri, what was that like for you today?
Well, I'll tell you, Keith and Allyson, definitely the sentiments of the students is that they say the destruction that they watched on live television has completely changed their vision of America and what it means to live here. Now, those students who are old enough to understand what happened today say mostly what they're frightened of is what might happen next.
Images on a television screen consume this classroom of America's future. A voice hundreds of miles away tells a story that brings one word to their minds: war.
To think that after this something awful could happen, I mean, we could have war, and think I have brothers that are aged and they could be drafted. It's horrible.
Behind their eyes, thoughts of family, friends, and so many senseless deaths.
To me, it's more sad than anything, because just the thought that maybe one of our family members could be on that plane.
There's so many people in this school that have family up there, and it's really just, it's almost like Pearl Harbor. It's like, you know, maybe if you didn't have family over there, it's still hurt all over the country, and that's what this is doing right now.
As students continue to watch, their questions echo the sentiments of the nation.
I don't know how such this big thing could happen without finding out the reasons behind it and why it occurred.
It's just shocking because we wouldn't expect it to happen here. We wake up every day and we go out and have our little routine, and then today it changed.
Of course, now the country waits to hear from the president to find out where we go from here. I'm Keri Schwartz reporting live in the newsroom.
Keri, thanks very much. The mayor of New York City, Rudy Giuliani, says he expects the number of casualties from today's attacks really to be more than the city can handle.
That's in addition to the thousands of injuries that are expected. Emergency personnel are scrambling to treat people in 2 of the nation's busiest cities.